Hello, this video is going to be a deep dive into the specific Missouri statute regarding domestic violence, um, the 12-hour log that I referenced in the that kind of in the introduction video. So I'm going to share. What is this? I want to do the entire screen. Okay, I don't know what it's doing here, but I'm just going to do it this way. And so domestic violence. So we have a statute here that talks about that when a law enforcement officer has probable cause to believe that a party has committed a violation of the law amounting to domestic violence, right? And then that's the statute for domestic violence. The officer may arrest the offending party, right? It's not a mandatory thing. So if the officer declines to make an arrest, still have to do a report, right? Because things could escalate, things could get worse. We might be back, right? And then it talks about that if we come back to the same address within a 12-hour period and again find probable cause that there's been another violation of the statute regarding domestic violence, that's when our ability, our discretion is taken away. It says they shall arrest, meaning we do not have a choice, right? And the refusal of the victim to sign an official complaint shall not prevent the arrest. And so you may be asking yourself, why would the police arrest a person who's committed domestic violence? And so there's several reasons for that. One reason could be if it is a very, very minor injury, or technically, like, you do not actually have to cause an injury to commit domestic violence. Just simply shoving somebody is assault. So the other thing, so if you have a very minor violation of the domestic violence statute and you have an uncooperative victim, those are the circumstances where maybe you wouldn't make the arrest. Another instance could be where both parties were assaulting each other, and that could still be a problem if you were unable to determine the primary physical aggressor. Because remember, in the statute, it says if, one of the ifs here. Let me see. Being able to determine the primary physical aggressor. Yeah, so here, section 3, it talks about not required to arrest both parties if both claim to be assaulted. We shall attempt to identify the party, the primary physical aggressor. And that is defined as the most significant, not necessarily the first. And so basically, who was amping up the situation? The most. More so than necessarily who swung first or whatever. A lot of times it is who swung first, but it could be that maybe one party shoved another and then the other one came out swinging and didn't stop, right? Like, it's one thing to throw a punch, it's another thing to throw a dozen, so that's where we're talking about the primary aggressor. And even within here, there's a caveat, right, that you have to consider the intent of the law to protect victims, So if you have a situation where there's a big disparity in size and strength between the parties, you do have to take that into account. That basically the party that is at a disadvantage may have to escalate their force higher to defend themselves. And so it's not necessarily the person with the most significant injuries that is the primary aggressor, or that is the victim. I guess that's what I'm saying. They could be the aggressor. Uh, the extent of the injuries and the history, you know. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that because I know I mentioned it deeply and I couldn't find a really good video, pre-produced video that disclosed or discussed that, and so I wanted to uh, come in here and kind of iron that out. And then there are 4 degrees of domestic violence in the state of Missouri. The least significant is domestic fourth. It is a misdemeanor. And it talks about either recklessly causing physical injury, um, or acting with criminal negligence to cause physical injury. Um, Places the victim in immediate apprehension of injury. So, kind of that pump fake kind of thing, or threats, verbal threats that are, let's just say, convincing. um, and then knowingly causing physical contact with a domestic victim, knowing that he or she will regard that as offensive. And then knowingly causing the isolation of such victim by unreasonably and substantially restricting or limiting their access to other people, telecommunication devices, or transportation for the purposes of isolation. So if they say, I'm going to call my mom, and the perpetrator yanks the phone away, right? That's isolating them. Uh, so domestic assault is very, very similar to the normal assault statute. When we talk about somebody that's a domestic victim, we tend to think of, uh, and we look at the definitions. It Find somewhere else. Hmm. There it is. There it is. Domestic victim, a household or family member, including a child who is a member of the family. So they live together, or they have a family, a familial relationship. Spouses, former spouses, any person related by blood or marriage, persons who are presently residing together or have resided together in the past, any person who has been in a continuing social relationship of a romantic or intimate nature with the victim, and anybody that has a child in common, regardless of whether they've been married or resided in the same home. So and the difference between like fourth degree, third degree, second degree is going to have to do with injury. So in the fourth degree, it does not require an injury. It can be the threat of injury. Third degree, they have to cause physical injury or physical pain in order to be charged with this crime. Um, Second degree, they have to cause either serious physical injury or that they are causing injury by means of a dangerous instrument, choking or strangulation, or the use of a deadly weapon. And so that is the felony level. And then first degree is that they are attempting to kill or cause serious physical injury. Uh, and so those are the statutes. And so I wanted to talk about that because that's that's what officers are trying to determine on scene when they are determining whether they have a crime and what level of crime that they have. So the general rule of thumb regarding whether it's a physical injury or a serious physical injury is going to be a physical injury is an injury that you can prove, right? So they have a bruise on their arm, they have a black eye, they have a bloody nose, they have scratches from like fingernails scratching their face, or they have some evidence of the injury that you can see or that you can determine through like medical records. And so serious physical injury is going to be something that requires significant medical intervention. And so they got broken bones, they've got you know uh, you know cuts that are deep enough to require stitches, those kinds of things. That's going to fall into that felony level of assault where they've got serious injuries. Um, and then, of course, the first degree is, that the injury is significant enough to put their life in danger, whether or not they die. Um, it's going to be very serious. So that's all that I wanted to cover in this. So uh, let me get this cut off and